Thank you very much and good morning. Let me begin by offering our condolences to everybody who was impacted by the tragic gas explosion in Embakasi. My thanks to you, Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya. It is a pleasure to do this together with you and of course for your incredible leadership and the strong partnership that we have as we set about to host the 6th United Nations Environment Assembly here in our home host country, Kenya. The United Nations Environment Assembly is referred to as UNEA. As the world's top decision-making body on the environment, UNEA, and in this case UNEA-6, will bring together ministers and intergovernmental organizations, the broader UN system, civil society, the scientific community, and the private sector to shape global environmental policy. This year, we're expecting more than 70 ministers. Actually, it keeps going up. And we're expecting thousands of delegates. As of now, 3,000 delegates have registered to join us in Nairobi. We have 20 draft resolutions on the docket to be discussed and negotiated, and 2 draft decisions submitted for countries to finalize. Ms. O'Halleck will share more about this. But I'll talk about the wider context in which UNEA-6 sits and what it all means. As we prepare for the Assembly, it's clear that the world has no longer a to-do list, but a must-do list when it comes to the environment. This is a must-do list that the UNEP calls on to tackle what we refer to as a triple planetary crisis, the crisis of climate change, the crisis of nature, biodiversity, and desertification, nature and biodiversity loss and desertification, and the crisis of pollution and waste. And these crises are disproportionately affecting the global south and especially the African continent, including Kenya. The impacts here are here now, and they are growing. Last year was the hottest record year that we know, bringing more intense storms, more droughts, more flooding, more wildfires. Species are under threat, and forests are falling, and soils are turning infertile across the world. Millions of people are impacted by this, and unfortunately, many dying each year from exposure to pollution and chemicals. There's a global response for the crisis, and this is a good thing. Last year's climate talk signaled the end of fossil fuels in the transitioning away from, and it signaled the establishment of the Loss and Damage Fund, with initially 700 million, a bit more, in pledges. We also saw a new framework on chemicals that was gavelled in September of last year, which is a major breakthrough, but which the world has not focused so much on, but which we will all benefit from, I can promise you. And we saw the first full year of the implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, the new framework that sets ambitious targets against which we are all working. And we are, of course, as you will know, in the final stages to negotiate the plastic agreement, a legally binding framework for plastic pollution, including in the marine environment. That was a key outcome of UNEA-5, you may recall. There are dozens of other global and regional multilateral agreements, many of them hosted by UNEP, that are underpinning and seeking to support us tackling the triple planetary crisis, the crisis of climate, the crisis of nature loss and desertification, and the crisis of pollution and waste. This is why this year UNEA-6 will place a particular focus on how we can strengthen environmental multilateralism and how multilateralism can help us do this. UNEA-6 will seek to drive a united, inclusive multilateral action that addresses every strand of the triple planetary crisis as one indivisible challenge. We can't deal with this in separate pieces. We have to deal with this understanding that the planet hangs together as one and cannot be tackled chapter by chapter. We will have many, many people coming, as I mentioned. We are very happy to have a Youth Environment Assembly kicking off, convened by youth, for youth, with the agenda determined by youth. We will also have leadership dialogues that will focus on finance, on science and data and digitalization, and on multilateralism. We'll have a day that is dedicated to bringing together the various multilateral environmental agreements that global governments have signed up to, with a view of creating a unified vision for amplification of action. Now, it's of course a fact that UNEA-6 will not solve the world's problems overnight, nor is that what it is intended to do. But what it can do and what it must do is to unite nations under the banner of environmental action. We all live on this planet, and we have to focus our minds and our energies for key solutions to that triple crisis: the crisis of climate change, the crisis of nature loss and desertification, and the crisis of pollution and waste. And that is what will help guide UNEP's work into the critical period for our people and for our planet. Thank you to members of the press.
Tunaona, tunasikia na tutabonga. The voice.